appropriation for the 2025 fiscal year amounts to 290.9 billion Ghana cedis. Meanwhile, the minority in parliament is hailing the NPP's economic legacy, citing 5% GDP growth rate as evidence of a strong economic handover. Government announces plans to formalize the export of Ghanaian labor to other countries starting this year. Coming up on international fronts, Argentina start trial over the death of soccer icon Maradona. Coming up in sports, Liverpool's Champions League runs comes to an end after a penalty shootout loss to PSG. We have details of these stories and many more coming up shortly. Do stay. You're welcome back to the program. Remember, the broadcast is streaming on our socials, especially on Facebook and TikTok at Globe TVG. You can join us with your thoughts and a comment. This morning, Finance Minister Dr. Castle Atuforsen has announced that the total appropriation for the 2025 fiscal year amounts to 290.9 billion Ghana cedis. Presenting the 2025 budget to Parliament on Tuesday, Dr. Atuforsen provided an overview of the government revenue and expenditure projection for the year. He explained that the total expenditure for 2025 have been programmed at 269.1 billion Ghana cedis, representing 20.7% of GDP, down from 279.2 billion Ghana cedis, or 26% of GDP in 2024.
Mr. Speaker, total revenue and grant for 2025 is projected at 223.8 billion Ghana cedis, or 17.2% of GDP, up from 186.5 billion, or 17.4% of GDP. The projection is underpinned by non-oil revenue measures, which are expected to yield at least 0.6% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, total expenditure on commitment basis for 2025 has been programmed at 269.1 billion, representing 20.7% of GDP, down from 279.2 billion, which is 26% of GDP in the year 2024. Primary expenditure on commitment basis is projected at 204.7 billion Ghana cedis, representing 15.8% of GDP, which is a significant decline from 232.4 billion, representing 21.7% of GDP in the year 2024. Mr. Speaker, based on the resource allocation from 2025 fiscal year, the total appropriations for the year ending 31st December 2025 is 290,971,212,435 billion.
And businesses, the government has also announced plans to revitalize the economy, saying that they present necessary instrument for the abolishment of several taxes in the 2025 budget. Finance Minister Dr. Castle Atuforsen outlined the tax cuts during his budget presentation in Parliament, emphasizing the positive impacts these measures will have on disposable incomes and business growth.
Right, Honorable Speaker, we commit to the people of Ghana and this House, the business community, that we will undertake a comprehensive value-added tax reform this year. So, Speaker, with the aim to review the current distortions and cascading structure of the value-added tax regime. Ghana's effective rate, VAT rate, is about 22%. This is obviously because the 2.5% get fund levy the National Health Insurance Levy of 2.5 and the COVID levy are well added to the base for a final determination of what is due for VAT purposes. So, Speaker, aside the high VAT rate, businesses are not permitted by law to claim their input VAT for NHIL, Get Fund, and COVID levy, compounding the burden on households. Right, Honourable Speaker, our VAT regime has been distorted and rendered inefficient. It combines both VAT and sales tax principles with a flat rate, standard rate, and levies. We have requested for technical assistance from the Fiscal Affairs Department of the IMF on VAT reforms. It is expected that the IMF mission will commence in April 2025. The recommendations from the Technical Assistance Mission are expected to inform our reform. Mr. Speaker, ahead of the IMF Technical Assistance Mission, I will inaugurate a VAT reform task force to hold broad consultation with key stakeholders for their input. Mr. Speaker, the parameters for VAT reform will be is for them to complete this year. Mr. Speaker, the parameters will include the following. 1, abolishing the COVID levy. Mr. Speaker, reversing the decoupling of Get Fund and NHIL VAT from VAT. Mr. Speaker, reducing the effective VAT rate for households and businesses. Reversing the VAT flat rate regime and upwardly adjusting the VAT registration threshold to exempt micro and small businesses from the collection of VAT.
That was the Finance Minister, Dr. Karsel Atufo, presenting the 2025 budget with expenditure, with some taxes, especially the COVID, the betting, and that of the e-levy abolished. But let's go over the phone lines and speak to an expert to get an insight on this. Samuel Gamali Gajo is an economist and a lecturer at the University of Education, the Winneba Business School, and is joining me via phone. Good morning to you and many thanks for joining the program. Now, the reset budget has been presented. What is your general comment?
Thank you very much. Good morning to your cherished viewers and good morning to the workers of Globe TV.
Right.
My general impression is that this is a very bold decision from the government and also the finance minister. This budget is a budget that is people-centered. This is the first budget that has been done, and you can sense from the budget, if you read the 70-page document, the extent of research that has been done on the ground, that is in industry, with market women, and also what they think they should do. So if you look at the budget carefully, this budget is still towards how to relieve the pressure on the Ghanaian, the ordinary Ghanaian, and not commit too much into infrastructure. Probably because we've realized that the previous government has a lot of infrastructure in progress that needs to be completed. And from his assertion, those infrastructures that have been laid down by the previous government, if you are to take the instructions from the World Bank and the IMF on the current IMF program that we are running, it is going to take us about 12 years to complete all those projects which have been laid down. So why would you now allocate funds for new projects whilst we have old projects which have not yet been completed? So for my impressions, I think it's a very bold budget that speaks for the people, a budget that you can sense that there's a lot of work that has been done to it. And I believe that the implement it well. This is just a plan. The implementation is the issue.
Right. The economy is projected to grow by 4.4% in 2025. However, just a few days ago, the Statistical Service reported that the economy grew by 5.7% in 2024. Now, how do we reconcile these two figures?
Yes, last year it grew by 5.4% in 2024, probably because government had allocated a lot of money for the one district, one factory, where companies were being supported on those grounds. You realize that even this very month, January, there were some issues of tax rebates for certain industry players, right, so that they can produce more. The government in this budget has withdrawn, or I would say limited the funds that have been allocated to all these productive areas. So you don't expect as much growth as expected in 2025. Again, mind you that there's a lot of infrastructure development that were contracts and activities that started early last year and the middle of last year, and lots of the projects started. And so all these things build up into your GDP. Now the government is saying that we don't have enough money to continue some of these projects. We want to strictly abide by the provisions from the IMF, and so we are not going to allocate so much funds into what new projects. So you should expect that there will be a reduction in the growth, but the 4.4% estimated by the Minister of the Finance also falls within the expected growth for the sub-Saharan African region.
Right.
The expected growth for the sub-Saharan African region was 4.1% in 2025. So if you have an estimated 4.4%, I think it's quite okay within that region. So that's what accounts for the reduction from 5.5 to 4.4%.
Okay, I just reviewed the budget and highlighted key allocations to various sectors and programs. How will this policy intervention impact the economy, especially considering the abolishment of some major taxes?
Yes, if you consider the abolishment of some major taxes like the like the COVID-19, like the issues of betting tax, I think it's going to encourage the online. There's going to be some level of the pressure on the disposable income of the Ghanaian is going to come down.
Right.
You are paid salaries and you are transferring money to your mother in the village, and they are going to deduct 1%. All these things are going to release some taxes. Cumulatively, if people are very, they spend within their means and they are able to save some of this money, they can use them into some other investment projects in their various micro ways to help boost productivity in the system. So I think it's a smart way. Then the next question comes into all these taxes that have been abolished. Where are they going to get the sources of funding from? If you read the document very well, you realize that in 2016, government came up with a plan that every year when we collect taxes from the Ghanaians, some people file tax refunds. So these tax refunds that are filed, usually government suffers in repaying them. So they decided that every revenue that comes into the tax that government generates within a year, 6% of those revenues were supposed to have been used for tax refund. Now, from 2017 up until now, only 43% of those funds have been refunded. Meanwhile, we have about 26 billion Ghana cedis in that refund. So the ministry decided that 2% of the revenue that is going into the tax refund will give you about 3 billion Ghana cedis. In fact, the COVID-19 e-levy has just gives us 1.9 billion every year.
Yeah.
The betting tax has received only $180 million Ghana cedis so far as collected. So if you take this 2% of the tax refund and you use that for to plug in the holes that these taxes are giving you, you still have some money left. That is the reason why you see some allocations going to assemblymen. Because if you take that 2% and you take you net it off against the taxes that have been abolished, they still have excess funds. That is why they gave it out for the sanitary pass and they are giving it out for assemblymen. So that will still be within the framework or the revenue that we are already collecting as a country.
Right. You earlier described the budget as a people-centered budget, but what hopes that this budget provides for the Ghanaian people, especially those in rural areas, those on the streets?
Yes, if you realize, I was very surprised to see a documentary of the work the finance minister did in coming out with the budget. Will you be surprised that this budget was derived as a result of broad consultation, to the extent that he went to Mokola Market to have an interaction with the market women? He organized a Zoom social media conference where the youth on social media, their views were taken before the budget were undertaken. So you realize that these issues have been considered. So these petty issues, petty things that are making the life of the Ghanaians very, very difficult for them have been considered. That's why they are giving them some level of freedom. The capitation grant has been increased to over 73%, school feeding program and all these things. So these are geared towards relieving the economic hardship on the Ghanaian and ensuring that the market movement has some level of what and stability in terms of their revenue and expenditure projections, so that they do not constantly increase the prices of goods and services as a result of the instability of the market. Yes, we expect that depreciation of the currency to continue, but with these interventions, I'm sure that if you are so much concerned or you are so much certain about your expected expenditure, what happens to you is that you are able to plan within the scope. And by planning within the scope, somebody will not come and buy from your shop.
Right. And
because you are anticipating a depreciation of the currency, you double the price for the person, while in actual fact, you've not yet realized the increments in prices from your suppliers. These were things, the instability of projecting your expenditure were things that led to market women increasing their prices over the period for the past 2 years. If you realize, when the NPP government came to power from 2016, there was some level of stability. The reason why there was some level of stability is that we impose confidence, because we have confidence in them. So their first tenure, things were okay up until the COVID-19 came into being, where the level of instability started. People were not so much certain as to what the future holds.
Okay.
That is why. So if you bring in confidence and they are certain about their expenditure patterns, they are able to price their products very well and will not translate to the ordinary Ghanaian suffering the hardship thereof.
Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel Gamali Gajo, for speaking to us this morning.
You're welcome, my brother.
Samuel Gamali Gajo is a lecturer and economist at the University of Education Winneba Business School, sharing insights and his general comments on this budget. Now, still on this budget, Dr. Kese Latufosi, the finance minister, has also announced that the government is uncapping the Ghana Education Trust Fund (GET) fund to ensure sustainable funding for free secondary education. Now, this move aims to address long outstanding concerns about the quality and financial sustainability of the free senior high school policy.
Right, Honorable Speaker, we commit to the people of Ghana and this House, the business community, that we will undertake a comprehensive value-added tax reform this year. So, Speaker, with the aim to review the current distortions and cascading structure of the value-added tax regime. Ghana's effective rate, VAT rate, is about 22%. This is obviously because the 2.5% GET fund levy, the national health insurance. The overarching concern about free secondary education has been its quality and the absence of a dedicated sources of funding. His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama has resolved the funding challenges by uncapping the GET fund. Mr. Speaker, this makes available dedicated funding for full financing of free senior secondary school education and free tertiary education for persons with disability. Mr. Speaker, therefore, Capping and Realignment Act will be amended to uncap the Ghana Education Trust Fund. Mr. Speaker, this year, the budget for free senior secondary school education program is 3.5 billion Ghana cedis. By uncapping the GET fund, we will be making available an additional 4.1 billion Ghana cedis, specifically for financing free secondary education program and other related expenditures. Mr. Speaker, aside the uncapping of GET fund, we have also absorbed the debt service made up of interest and principal from the Dache bond that GET fund contracted. Right, Honorable Speaker, we have also allocated an amount of 564.6 million Ghana cedis for the provision of curriculum-based textbooks covering the following. 1, 4 sets of KG books and workbooks for about 2.8 million learners. Mr. Speaker, we have also provided for 4 sets of primary textbooks for about 800,000 learners. So, Speaker, we have also provided for 9 sets of SHS textbooks for
the phone line and speak to the chairman of Ghana National Association of Private Schools, Joseph Prince Sorrigan, on this development. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Before the election, you expressed your position to the political parties regarding private schools in Ghana. Now that the maiden budget, that is the reset budget, has been presented, does it provide you with any relief from your perspective as chairman of the Ghana National Association of Private Schools?
Good morning, my brother, and let me greet your cherished viewers and listeners this morning. I must say that this budget that was read yesterday by the finance minister on behalf of the president is very inspiring, especially when it comes to the educational sector. You recall that before the budget, we had our expectation about education, especially that the free senior high government in their manifesto prior to the election 2024 said that they will have a dedicated funding for it. And yesterday, we also saw from the finance minister that they have a dedicated source of funding for the free senior high, and the source is that they have uncapped the debt fund that will make room for the funding of the free senior high.
Right.
So we think that with that dedicated source of fund, it's going to help the free senior high. The next one is the textbooks. You know, we changed the curriculum. The previous government brought the new curriculum. And over 7 years now, that we do not have textbooks. And now we have a textbook. The budget has made provision for the textbooks. And this textbook, we had our engagement before the budget, and we were promised that this time around the private schools will be included in the distribution of the textbooks.
Right.
Even if we will not get all as the government schools are getting, but for the core subject, we are likely to get some for our Ghanaian children in the private schools. So we think that this budget will help us going forward.
Okay, you described the budget as an inspiring budget. Now, how do you plan to engage with the government and other stakeholders to ensure that the interests of private schools are represented in future budget discussions and educational policies?
You see, this budget presentation was a departure from the norm. The finance minister did not present the sector-by-sector allocations. And he said that he thinks sector ministers should come to parliament and present their sectorial budgets. Yes, so the education minister will be presenting the education budget or the allocations that will be done to the education. Now, we have advocated for our leadership to be part of most of the board, especially the NASIA board, the WAIC board, and then the NTC board, the National Teachers Council board. And all these things will help us going forward. And we have also had a series of engagement with the ministry and then the Minister of Education.
Okay.
We are to engage him further. We have listed about our concerns to him, and we'll be engaging him further going forward once the budget has been released.
Right.
And we think that the promises that they made to us prior to the election, we are going to remind them and then hold them onto it. One thing I saw from this budget is that the government try as much as possible to honor all their manifesto promise. Because they start on almost every single thing that they promised with the Ghanaian people during the election.
Okay.
And I think that is good for the political class. They are beginning to take Ghanaians serious.
Yeah.
And going forward, we can always hold them to the social contract that they have with us.
what should be the long-term vision for the education sector in Ghana, and how can both public and private schools work together, to achieve this vision?
The long-term vision is what I've just started, the educational forum. You see, the educational forum that was started is bringing all stakeholders on board, that we will all think through to see where we want to take our education to. We know that now we have compromised on quality. So with this engagement, we think that going forward, both private and public schools have a role to play. What we, the private schools, are against is always the discrimination. Just for the fact that a child is attending private schools, he's being discriminated against when it comes to we giving them the same level playing ground. For example, the children in the private schools write the same exams with the children in the public schools. But when it comes to placement in category A schools in the senior high school, there is a certain 30% placement, priority placement for the children in the public schools against the private school children. We think it is discriminatory and must be abolished. And we stand against that. And we have made all pronouncements for leadership to hear our cry. The last resort is for us to take a legal action against such discriminatory actions for the children in the private schools.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joseph Prince Sorokan. He is the Bono East Regional Chairman of the Ghana National Association of Private Schools, sharing insights on the 2025 reset budget. Former Minister of Finance Seth Terkper has expressed optimism about the government's ability to tackle Ghana's economic challenges, citing the recent budget presentation as evidence of the preparedness. He noted that the budget draw from various sources, including the NDC manifesto and the Economic Dialogue and Education Forum, demonstrating a deep understanding of the economy and a commitment to finding solutions.
Well, the budget, you can see, has taken a lot of inputs, from, the party's, manifesto, and going into the SONA, and the economic dialogue in particular, and partly the education, fora that was held. And so it's a reflection of a deep thinking about the state of the economy. The most important thing is that we have sunk quite low, particularly on the economy. We are a country that has defaulted. We are a country that cannot even issue, long-term bonds, domestic. We are a country where, for the first time, citizens have had to sacrifice in terms of haircuts. But as the president said and repeated today, by the minister, we want to get onto the job, just as we did, not too long ago, in our last administration from Ms. Mahama, and begin to find solutions. So we are solutions oriented. And I hope that we will be able to bring back most of the policies that we were implementing. You can see glimpses of them. And
meanwhile, the minority in Parliament, led by the Member of Parliament for Karaga, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, is hailing the NPP's economic legacy, citing 5% GDP growth rate as evidence of strong economic handover. This assertion is based on Finance Minister Dr. Ato Forsen's budget statement, which reportedly vindicates the NPP's objection to the NDC claims of economic crisis.
To start with, as you all heard the minister has confirmed to the whole world today that the economy we handed over to the NDC government was a strong economy. have been telling Ghanaians that the economy was not in crisis. President Mahama used the soda to lament over an economy which was not in crisis, and yet he told Ghanaians the economy was in crisis. The Minister for Finance also tried to do same, but however we all heard him alluding to the fact that this economy is a strong economy. You watched the hesitation when it came to announcing the growth figures. You also watched with hesitation by the minister when it came to the debt levels, the debt to GDP levels. The reality is that as of the end of last year, 2024, growth rate, real GDP growth, was 5.7%. And this was released just yesterday by the Ghana Statistical Service, confirmed by the minister today. We took over from the NDC in 2016 with a growth rate of 3.4%. 3.4% against 5.7%. And if you come to the projection for 2025, that is really disturbing and disappointing. An economy that was broken, recording 5.7%, and a reset economy, as we are being told, is projected to grow at 4%. How can we say that this reset economy will be better than the economy that President Mahama said?
On the international front, Argentina began a long-awaiting trial on Tuesday of the medical team for soccer star Diego Maradona over 4 years after he died in 2020 in a case that has railed emotions in the South American country where the World Cup winner is still revered.
The long-awaited trial of Diego Maradona's medical team began on Tuesday in Argentina. It's a case that has sparked strong emotions in the country, where the soccer star who died in 2020 is revered. 7 members of the medical team were in court, with an 8th facing a jury trial in July. Maradona's nurses, brain surgeon and psychiatrist are among those accused of homicide by negligence. If convicted, they could face 8 to 25 years in prison. All have denied any wrongdoing.
New evidence shows that there is no criminal liability for Maradona's death on any of the accused.
Outside the courthouse near Buenos Aires, fans displayed signs reading "Justice for Dios," a nickname referencing Maradona's jersey number and the Spanish word for God. Maradona died at home in November 2020, aged 60, from a heart failure. That was while he was recovering from surgery to remove a blood clot days earlier. In 2021, investigators classified the case as culpable homicide, similar to involuntary manslaughter. They determined the accused knew of Maradona's serious health condition, but failed to take necessary measures to save him. Over 100 witness testimonies, including those from family, doctors, friends and journalists, will be presented to the 3-judge court. Considered one of the greatest soccer players ever and revered for leading Argentina to World Cup glory in 1986, Maradona battled drug addiction and ill health for years. His death rocked Argentina, prompting an outpouring of...
In sport this morning, an exciting matchup at Anfield, Liverpool's European dreams were shattered as Paris Saint-Germain made history by becoming the first team to knock the Red out of European tie after losing the first leg. Bayern Munich made it look easy against Bayer Leverkusen in the UEFA Champions League round of 16 in all German showdown. The Bavarians passed with flying colours, securing a spot in the last 8 with a 5-0 aggregate win. Hear from an informed Hurricane whose goal opened the scoring of Bayern on what this means for this side.
Yeah, I mean, what two great performances, home and away. To beat this type of team 5-0 overall shows the type of team that we are, and I think it's never easy when you have kind of a 3-0 lead going into this type of game. But I think from the first minute, the intensity that we showed, the press, and we were the team that was getting the better chances, and we knew that the game was going to open up in the second half, and we just had to be patient. So top performance from everyone. We defended really well. We took our chances when we needed to, and overall, we're delighted to be in the quarter-final.
What does this result say about this team? Because since you've been at the club, the rivalry with Bayer Leverkusen has generally gone in one direction. To now swing it back in the other way, how does that feel?
Yeah, I mean, I think we started from the start of the season. I think in the Bundesliga we've been really strong and showed the intensity that we want to, the team that we want to be, and then we've carried that on in the Champions League. There was a lot of talk going into this game, especially here in Germany, about who people expected to win, and we stayed calm.
We have more sports stories available on our website at www.globetvonline.com. Let's take a recap of our top stories. Finance Minister Dr. Castella Forson has announced that the total appropriation for the 2025 fiscal year amount to 290.9 billion Ghana cedis. Meanwhile, the minority in Parliament is hailing the NPP's economic legacy, citing a 5% GDP growth rate as evidence of a strong economic handover. On the international front, Argentina starts trial over the death of a soccer icon, Maradona. And in sport, Liverpool's Champions League run comes to an end after a penalty shootout loss to PSG. We'd like to on behalf of the entire production team led by Alexander Ohineja and directed by Abuna McCaffrey. Many thanks for watching. I am Brighter. We have a good morning and enjoy the rest of our program. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.